So, Russiagate as a whole has been a topic that was mostly forgotten from the general discourse due to the passing of time, but also due to President Trump's dismissal of the accusations. This new investigation, however, by Tulsi Gabbard, if true, paints the president's dismissive nature as a correct assessment of the situation. But I would like to take this moment to discuss the beginning of this case and how we got here, by the way, in the first place. So joining me now to discuss this is retired Air Force combat veteran, Colonel Rob Maness. Before I bring him in, and I love his body of work and his great service to this great nation, I want to show each of you a clip, and we'll bring in the Colonel to give us an assessment of it. Let's go to the clip.
Tulsi Gabbard, she may be impaired on the ethics front, certainly, but she's not impaired on the intellect front. And so I can only presume that she is doing this intentionally mischaracterizing, misrepresenting, and lying about what she has found.
Wow. That's almost a punch in my gut, especially those of us get a chance, Colonel, to look at this information as I have. And I don't know, it looks pretty damning to me, but that our audience can catch up. Maybe there's a small group of individuals that unfortunately didn't hear about the genesis of how this all started. Colonel, give us your assessment. How did we get here?
Well, it's a long and winding trail, Aubrey, but just in a nutshell, a group called Fusion GPS, supported by Republicans, found this Steele dossier that ended up, we found out, was created and fleshed out by the Clinton campaign in secret. And that was the very genesis of this, because that was how the Obama administration in early December of 2016, the president stopped his December 9th presidential daily brief in mid-publication process, because it said that as the intelligence for the preceding 4 months had said that Russia had nothing to do with the 2016 election. So they stopped it, didn't let it be published, and his direction in a meeting in early December to all of the intelligence leadership and the senior leadership on his staff, including Vice President Joe Biden and James Clapper, John Brennan, James Comey, all of them were involved in these meetings. His direction was develop an intelligence community assessment right away, saying that Russia preferred Trump and meddled in the election. Now, I got a copy of that in January of 2017, right after it was published. And your audience probably doesn't know, but I served for several years as an executive level officer in a command position in the intelligence community in the Air Force, so military intelligence, but we dealt with and worked with CIA, NSA, all of those agencies. So I'm very familiar with the intelligence development, exploitation, and dissemination process. And when I read this ICA, I immediately saw that there was non-supportable information being talked about in the ICA that was made public, and that was the Steele dossier. We had already had wind that the Steele dossier existed, what its background was, and where it came from. And as soon as I saw that, I started reading the assessment from that perspective, and you could blatantly see, if you were an intelligence professional, where the lies and the false and weak data were coming from. And the real kicker was that the NSA would not sign up to the confidence level of high confidence on the information in that intelligence community assessment. If you remember, Admiral Rogers was in charge of the NSA at that time, and he's famous for going to Trump Tower and giving President Trump a briefing about something that caused him to move out of Trump Tower, his campaign and everything. So that's the history behind this. And it is on the level, actually it's beyond the level of the secession of the states that joined the Confederacy, and President Jefferson Davis of the Confederate States of America did not even do anything on this level that would warrant a charge of seditious conspiracy and conspiracy. A sitting president of the United States did that in December of 2016. It is the greatest act of treachery and treason committed against the United States since our inception, and I'm talking about the Declaration of Independence, not just the Constitution.
Yeah.
These folks have to be held accountable, and that includes President Obama.
Yeah, no, I concur. And it's interesting. I don't know, you're going to make me a little nervous here, Colonel. And let me tell you why. One of my questions that I had written down prior to you coming, and I'm thinking, I didn't share this with any of our producers. I was going to literally ask you to liken it to another point of history. I was going to use the exact same analogy with sedition as it relates to going back. I'll digress. Let's go a little further here. I only have a few more moments here, and we're going to bring you back here in just a moment. So when you see Brennan and guys like this who were going around, I mean, again, there's so much footage out there. I could have had 1,000 different pieces. They're lying. I'm pretty good and had a pretty decent education and a very high GPA. They're lying. I don't know any other way kindly to say it. I don't do political correctness very well. Are these guys, in your opinion, Colonel, are they afraid of what perhaps is about to happen to them, Colonel?
Well, if they're not, they're dumber than I think they are. And you're right, they are lying. And that little clip with Brennan saying that DNI Gabbard is lying, it's obvious that she can't lie in this situation. The facts are out there. She distributed the paperwork, 3 tranches of documents showing the direct evidence of this sedition and seditious conspiracy that was started and built by the President of the United States. And James Clapper, a former Air Force officer, is heavily involved in it and is known to have lied to Congress. John Brennan is the core individual at the heart of the CIA. And when you look at the documents that DNI Gabbard has released, Aubrey, it's very plain and factual based. And as she said in the press conference at the White House just the other day, look, it's not a debatable issue. The facts are here. We have now released 3 different tranches of this information, and the facts show otherwise. That's why we have referred these people, including President Obama, for criminal charges to the Department of Justice, and that's who will make the calls on further investigation, charges, indictments, and those kinds of things, because the intelligence community shouldn't be involved in that. But they have politicized this. All of our intelligence institutions, they politicized our defense institution.
Hey, look, we're coming right back with retired Air Force combat veteran Colonel Rob Maness. Your grandfather gave his life to make sure that in the European theater that his grandson, who he would never meet, would have a free and a liberated society. And I still believe to this day that America is the best bastion of hope that we have ever seen, at least in the last couple thousand years. And I have to give our kudos, of course, to our laws that were based out of Hebraic understanding of judicial laws going back as far as Israel. With that being said, we have with us today retired Air Force combat veteran Colonel Rob Maness. And I want to get his take on something. I want to show you, our audience, a quick clip. And I want to come back to Colonel here. I'd love to hear his opinion on this. Let's go to the clip.
Says that she's referred these filings to the Justice Department for a criminal investigation. Tonight, we're told they formed what is called a strike force. Do you have concerns that they will attempt to prosecute you?
Well, certainly I do. After 8.5 years of this, and I don't know of an intelligence product that was more scrutinized, more investigated than that product was by numerous people. It's very disconcerting. It really is. And I take seriously when the President of the United States accuses me of being a participant in a treasonous conspiracy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
It's ridiculous. It is untrue.
So what will you do if they come after you? What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
Wow. Here was the director of intelligence, Colonel, and I've never seen him this somber in my entire life, ever. And again, I'm not talking about revenge. I'm talking about the average American citizen who finds himself in trouble, that has to get an attorney, Why do these guys seem like, I don't know, they're above the law, and the rules of the law shouldn't apply to them, but it should apply to guys like me and girls that are watching this show. When you see this clip, and again, it's obvious this guy is lying, not just because I've studied behavior. I have. When I look at his body, when I look at, he's almost sunken now. This is the same guy that accused Donald Trump of everything that now he's faced with his own signature being a part of it. Colonel, when you see this guy, what are your thoughts? What happens to you there?
Well, it's for somebody that served for over 32 years of my life in the United States government and the national security side, all in uniform. It's infuriating to see a former general officer and highest official in the intelligence world in that institution or either of those institutions that is a liar, that believes that he is above the law and his ilk are above the law and they shouldn't face investigation, let alone criminal charges, for the biggest, most extensive sedition operation in American history. Again, I take you back to pre-Civil War, Aubrey. Senator Jefferson Davis from Mississippi said after Lincoln was elected, and that was the last time opportunity that you can compare to the 2016 election, said that he would never, on the floor of the Senate, said he would never try to disrupt the government that Lincoln was going to form or to disrupt the president of the United States because he was duly elected, and that he, Jefferson Davis, was sworn to support that government. Now, everything that came after that, those folks left that government. All of that is debatable. But that's what the senator said. And this happened, a former senator, a current sitting president of the United States, and all of his minions, and I'll call them minions, that were acolytes and loyal to his approach because he was supporting the administrative state, some call it the national security state, the unelected bureaucracy that thinks it really should be in control of our country instead of the American people being in control. And the struggle you're seeing right now that Donald Trump represents, he only represents it because at some point he'll leave office. That struggle is between the American people and this unelected bureaucracy that thinks it should be in charge. And we are in serious trouble. This conspiracy continues inside Donald Trump's government because there are tens of thousands, as you know, millions of employees in that government that were hired under the Obama and Biden administrations that will continue to do this resistance operation. We just saw it come out of the Pentagon one more time in this blatant Daily Mail attack with anonymous letters the other day, and it's going to continue until we can ferret it out. And I say to them, we are going to find you if you don't come forward now and tell the truth and admit what you did and tell the truth about what others did to overthrow Donald Trump's 45th president administration and that government, then things are going to get much worse for you than if you had.
Colonel, I've been going back over some of my civil lessons, etc. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, and again, I'm reaching out, Colonel, to some of my friends that are professors of law, various institutions, etc. It seems like Barack Hussein Obama is guilty of treason. Am I overreaching, Colonel?
Well, there's a constitutional definition of treason. I'm sure your law folks have been talking to you about that. So we have to be careful. You notice that I very rarely use the term treason, but when I do, it's not in the constitutional law perspective because there's a definition in there that the lawyers will have to figure out if his actions beat that. But in the general sense, traitorous behavior to a duly elected president and the government he has chosen to put in place is treasonous. So that act could very well be treason. The legalites, those folks are going to have to dig into it and see if there's an actual charge of treason possible. And the other issue with Obama himself is, the immunity case that Donald Trump won at the Supreme Court did not address official acts that are against the Constitution of government of a current president. Or a future president. It did not address that. from a level of immunity. So there's a big question there. And then the impeachment process. The former president could also be impeached. That's the constitutional remedy to acts like treason, which I believe it fits the definition. But like I said, the lawyers are going to have to get involved to see if that's actual. But at a minimum, seditious conspiracy initiated by Barack Obama and sedition itself is absolutely on the table for every one of these people, including the former president, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, I teed that up for a reason for you, because again, I have a bunch of friends, academia's we're in constant contact. And again, these are not all of them, by the way, just for our audience to understand, these are not guys that I just tee off with on the golf course that we all agree on everything, but they're thinkers. And when they're fair and balanced in the truest sense of the old school liberals as it relates to just law, they're going, yeah, this is a treasonous act. There's no doubt about it. Where it goes is going to be a whole nother issue here. Colonel, in this last 30 seconds I have with you, this is already becoming a race issue. I don't know how, but again, the lame street media, they will find a way to make this about race. This isn't about race, is it? Isn't this really about the rule of law and those who hate this country by their proven acts? They're showing their true colors. Take 30 seconds, Colonel, and address that.
Yeah, Aubrey, this is about the grave damage caused to the Republic of the United States of America and its people because of this two-tiered or dual-tracked legal system that has been allowed and enabled to be put in place and operated, especially the last 6 or 7 years, maybe even 10 years back, openly, and the American people see it. And the problem with that is, if it's not properly addressed in a nonpartisan, fair and objective way, that could spell trouble on the streets of the United States of America. So I would advise everybody to back out of your partisanship, back out of your woke DEI racism calls, and think about this from the level of the republic that we want going forward here, and if we can reestablish it or not and get control back into the hands of the American people and the presidents of the United States properly and legally from a lawful perspective.
Yep. Retired Air Force combat veteran Colonel Rob Maness, I'm very appreciative of his finger being on the pulse of these issues. We'll be right back after a quick break.